Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining Discover Puerto Rico's industry update for the month of April. My name is Xiomara Rodriguez, and I am the Communications Director for Discover Puerto Rico. On today's industry update, our leadership team will update you on the latest research, marketing, and sales strategies developed to keep Puerto Rico top of mind while prioritizing health and safety. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's industry update will be translated simultaneously into Spanish. The slides we will be using are available in Spanish on our industry portal, discoverpuertorico.com/industry. So you can download the presentation and follow along. Today's webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent afterwards for your convenience. At the end of the presentation, there will be time for a Q&A, but feel free to send your questions as we go. You can do so by using the Q&A feature, which is the bubble labeled Q&A at the bottom of your screen. La presentación del día de hoy tendrá subtítulos o closed captions en español. Si usted desea activar la función de subtítulos en español, oprima en el botón etiquetado Closed Caption en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Elija la opción que dice Show Subtitles para ver los subtítulos en español. Si desean ver el tracto completo de la traducción, pueden seleccionar la función que dice View Full Transcript. La presentación que utilizaremos el día de hoy está disponible en español y puede ser descargada desde nuestro portal de la industria, discoverpuertorico.com/industry. Además, el seminario web del día de hoy está siendo grabado y más tarde esta semana recibirán un enlace con la grabación del mismo para que puedan repasar el contenido a su conveniencia. I want to remind you to subscribe to Discover Puerto Rico's industry portal so you can access multiple tools and valuable information such as research updates, digital marketing tools, and our multimedia library. You can also stay abreast of collaborations and partnership opportunities, special projects, and much more. Quiero invitarlos a suscribirse a nuestro portal de la industria. A través del mismo pueden tener acceso a información valiosa, herramientas de mercadeo digital y nuestra biblioteca de elementos multimedia. También podrán mantenerse informados sobre oportunidades de colaboración, proyectos especiales y muchas cosas más. Also, if you're a business that falls under the categories on the screen and haven't claimed your free business listing on our website, we encourage you to do so. Businesses who have claimed their listings receive referrals from potential consumers directly from our website. On the screen, you can see the number of referrals received in the last 30 days by an industry partner through a business listing on our site. If you need assistance with this process, feel free to reach out to our digital team via email, website at discoverpuertorico.com. También les exhorto a los negocios dentro de las categorías que vemos en pantalla a reclamar su perfil gratuito en nuestro sitio web. Los negocios que han reclamado sus perfiles reciben referidos de clientes potenciales directamente desde nuestra página web. Aquí en pantalla pueden ver la cantidad de referidos recibidos en los últimos 30 días para uno de los negocios a través de su perfil. De necesitar asistencia suscribiéndose al portal o reclamando su perfil de negocios, pueden conectarse con nuestro equipo digital a través de website at discoverpuertorico.com. During today's industry update, you'll hear from our CEO, Brad Dean, Governor Pedro Pierluisi, Research and Analytics Director, Alicia Valentine, Chief Marketing Officer, Leah Chandler, and Chief Sales Officer, Ed Carey. Now to get things started, I'll leave you with Discover Puerto Rico CEO, Mr. Brad Dean.
Saludos from your DMO, Discover Puerto Rico. We appreciate you investing your time to join us today as we work together to bring Puerto Rico back from the worst crisis ever in the history of our tourism industry. And just like after Hurricane Maria, and again after the earthquakes in early 2020, we are seeing yet another amazing comeback story being written here in Puerto Rico. Today, our team will share with you some very encouraging statistics. And while it's too early to celebrate, we can definitely point to some very positive trends that indicate Puerto Rico is well positioned to lead the great recovery of travel and tourism. Occupancy is rebounding quickly. In fact, we're outpacing the recovery in many markets throughout the US and Caribbean, and lately exceeding the national average. Overall, it appears that prices are holding steady, which, as we all know, will accelerate the long-term recovery of our lodging sector. Better yet, the future booking pace for our island is in line with and actually exceeding 2019 level, an accomplishment that most destinations are not yet seeing. And best of all, we are receiving a very strong, consistent, and positive response to our advertisements, which target responsible travelers with a message that emphasizes the health and safety measures taken by our island. And the good news is not just limited to leisure travel. In recent weeks, we have seen a surge in interest by meeting planners looking to Puerto Rico for future meetings and events. Recent promotions and sales activations are having a very positive impact on current and future clients. For example, last week, we were very fortunate to be featured in Global Meetings Industry Day, a worldwide promotion which attracted the attention of thousands of planners. And we broadcast a session with Darren Temple, the Chief Operating Officer of Meeting Planners International, from the Coca-Cola Music Hall in Distrito T-Mobile, which afforded us a unique opportunity to not simply talk about the status of our island, but also to demonstrate the progress being made and the exciting future that lies ahead for tourism in Puerto Rico. I'm especially encouraged to see that we are not only receiving interest from planners, we have resumed site visits and even contracted several thousand room nights recently. It's clear that planners are looking and they're booking. And this is a very positive sign that most economists expected would not take place until later this year or next year. The pace of this recovery is encouraging, and it can be attributed to several key reasons. First, the resiliency of local businesses and residents who refuse to allow this pandemic to keep us from enjoying the level of growth and success that we enjoyed in 2019. Second, the proactive approach by our local government and health professionals who have ensured that health and safety remain a top priority. And third, as we shared with you many times over the past year, our commitment to you was to never stop promoting our island. Whereas we watched many destinations turn off their messaging and refrain from promotion and engagement, we took a different path and have consistently sought to balance information and inspiration. We've been very proactive and transparent in keeping travelers, travel advisors, and professional planners informed of our local status, while also seeking innovative, cost-efficient ways of inspiring them with all that awaits when they finally return to Puerto Rico. And thankfully, this strategy is working, and it's increasingly evident that visitors are eager to return. But of course, we cannot let up now. We're encouraged by these very positive trends, and we are thrilled to see an extraordinary response to our advertising, sales, and publicity efforts. Likewise, we are honored to be receiving off-island recognition and awards for our recent efforts. But what really matters most is the local impact we're having here. Your DMO cannot and we will not relax until every business is operating at optimal levels and each one of those 86,000 jobs sustained by tourism are filled. But to accomplish that, we must all do our part to win the battle against COVID. So much progress has been made, but this is not the time to let our guard down. If the pandemic were a baseball game, this is the top of the ninth inning. If it were a Broadway show, we're watching the final closing act. And for our part, at Discover Puerto Rico, we will continue to do precisely what we have been doing since the onset of COVID. We will make certain that our messaging is clear, consistent, and aligned with local government. We will continuously update our travel advisory and all outbound communications to reflect the protocols, procedures, and standards in place so that visitors know what to expect when they visit our island. We will continue to target responsible travelers and make it clear that visitors must follow our laws and respect our island. And if we all do our part, we will soon be celebrating the end of the pandemic and the beginning of the great recovery of travel and tourism. At Discover Puerto Rico, our goal remains the same: to lead a recovery effort that outpaces our competition and launches our island beyond pre-pandemic levels, enabling us to grow our visitor economy to new heights. And I'm pleased to say that this is well underway. Now, of course, as you know, growing tourism requires a team effort, and we can only hope to recover if there's a solid, seamless effort amongst all parties. And that means the private sector, the public sector, and your DMO working together. And as we've seen over the past several months, when all of us are aligned with the same objectives and consistent messaging, it gives Puerto Rico a competitive advantage. So for this reason, we are honored today to be joined by our governor, the Honorable Pedro Pierluisi. Now, he needs no introduction to you, but I'll offer one observation. It is abundantly clear that Governor Pierluisi values tourism, and under his leadership, I am entirely confident that we're not only going to recover to pre-pandemic levels, but grow tourism to all-time record levels. And when our industry looks back on this time, I believe that Governor Pierluisi will have the best comeback story to talk about compared to all of the other governors in the United States and all the leaders of the Caribbean island. Señor Gobernador, bienvenido.
Thank you, Brad, for that warm welcome and the opportunity to speak with all of you today. Good morning to all our friends and stakeholders of the travel and tourism industry in Puerto Rico. I'm here before you this morning with great optimism, albeit with caution. There is no doubt that the quality and quantity of our local offer is great and that the potential for growth of the tourism sector in Puerto Rico is exponential. That is why I'm very positive about the island's travel and tourism's future. The negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on our tourism industry, as well as the health of our people and of our economy, is undeniable. Yet, the pandemic has hit all destinations, and Puerto Rico has fared better than most. During the past 13 months, travel has been down, the future is perceived as uncertain, and some people are fearful about traveling. However, Puerto Rico has remained open this past few months as the number of outbreaks decreased considerably. Although we're seeing a concerning rise in COVID numbers right now, we are very confident that our strict preventive measures, successful safety protocols, and effective vaccination efforts will help us turn the corner towards beating this virus sooner rather than later. To be able to focus on the recovery of the industry, which is going to be gradual, we have to make sure we are a safe destination and that we have a healthy workforce. Tourism is a people-driven sector, and we must first take care of them and then ensure we take all the necessary precautionary measures to protect our visitors. We have prioritized safety and hygiene in our airports, hotels and rentals, as well as in restaurants and other attractions. We have a temporary, strict but reasonable curfew and prudent restrictions, which have helped to avoid more serious closures when pandemic numbers rise. Our tourism sector commitment to safety is non-negotiable, which is why we have been diligent in preparing ourselves for this new normal, and those who have been visiting can attest to that. I should take a moment to congratulate our team for the flawless implementation of the Puerto Rico Tourism Company's Health and Safety SEAL program. I am proud of the job they have done to secure a healthy environment for those we serve. This success has brought about a huge acceptance from so many responsible travelers who have trusted us during this health crisis and visited our hotels or beaches and our multiple attractions. The groundwork has been laid to prepare us for the return of the travel season as soon as possible. Furthermore, Puerto Rico's tourism industry has a good foundation and its footing is solid. My administration considers tourism as one of the pillars of economic growth, and my agenda includes deliberate strategies to further our goal of building on that foundation. For years, we have been shy about developing our destination and ensuring we take advantage of all the different tourism-related components we have to offer. Although this sector only represents about 5.1% of our GDP, when we compare ourselves to neighboring islands and countries like Bahamas with 43% of their GDP, Aruba with 73%, or Jamaica with 31%, we know we have bigger opportunities waiting for us to develop them. It is clear that we can make a greater impact. Travel and leisure brings people together and promotes their engagement with the fabric of our culture, our music, our gastronomy, our natural beauty, and our people. Once you experience Puerto Rico, you're a fan for life. So we're going to be bolder and more innovative, and we are moving forward without pause. Among my priorities, I am securing a robust support system to propel our recovery, grow our offer, and lead in the Caribbean. We are developing a five-pronged leadership team with a vision, energy, and willingness to make things happen. First of all, our economic development agenda prioritizes tourism and is committed to the expansion of our market share. So the enhancement of our products has the full backing of my entire team. Second of all, we have a strong leader at the helm of the Department of Economic Development and Commerce. Secretary Manolo Sidre is unwavering in his work to promote ease of doing business reforms, guarantee a quality offer, and foster the growth that this sector aspires to have. Moreover, the Puerto Rico Tourism Company has strengthened its capabilities to manage our destination. Under our industry leader, Executive Director Carlos Mercado, PRTC has become a more agile and responsive organization in furthering its development, make adjustments to enhance our competitiveness, and ensure our readiness in the face of the pandemic. In these past few months, the tourism company has generated economic activity through responsible internal tourism, stimulated more reopenings of local attractions, helped grow our air access, prepared our cruise industry, and educated our visitors about the island's health and safety protocols. By the PRTC side, we have our destination marketing organization dedicated to growing and generating greater demand. Known as Discover Puerto Rico and led by Brad Dean, our host today, it is laser focused on branding, advertising, heading our public relations, and managing the sales component of the island as a first-class leisure and business travel destination. We're building our brand so that it stands the test of time and of challenges like COVID. To round out our strong team, the Puerto Rico Ports Authority, with Executive Director Joel Pizá at the helm, is decisively working on enabling and growing our air and maritime connectivity with the U.S. market and the rest of the world. Along with its agency partners, the Port Authority is securing the infrastructure needed to reach our visitors by air and by sea. As you can see, we're combining all our strengths and capabilities within our government structures to propel our destination to a new era of unparalleled growth. Winston Churchill used to say that you should never let a crisis go to waste. My team and I are committed to turning this pandemic into an opportunity to build for the future, to play the long game to our advantage, and set the stage for Puerto Rico to be the forerunner as a premier tourism destination. Our approach is to support both the public and the private partners in the industry. As we work towards a safe and strong recovery, we are supporting private partners to protect jobs and guarantee dignified wages, and incentivizing the financial health and stability of our tourism business. Promoting a responsible tourism recovery, we have been able to welcome over 12,000 visitors every day in the past few months. Just in March, San Juan's Luis Muñoz Marin Airport has received over 382,000 passengers because of our operational readiness. This represents a 56% increase over February. On April 1st, we opened the regional airports in Ponce and Aguadilla in the south and west of the island, respectively. Ponce is now connected to Orlando daily and soon will receive passengers through New York's JFK airport with JetBlue. Similarly, our Aguadilla airport has secured its engagement with JetBlue, Spirit, and United Airlines, connecting with Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, JFK, and Newark. This means that even in the midst of this pandemic, We're successfully connected to our key U.S. markets, and our seat capacity has grown. New routes that were recently negotiated will include Southwest Airlines between San Juan and Nashville, Spirit with New York's LaGuardia, which starts tomorrow actually. JetBlue is adding routes to Philadelphia and Raleigh. Frontier Airlines has added Santo Domingo and Chicago to the schedule. And American Airlines has confirmed a third flight to and from Dallas for the summer. The interest of our consumers to come and enjoy Puerto Rico is building demand and growth in the offer available by airlines towards the island. Our load factors are reaching record numbers above the national average, showing the customers are more confident and attracted to visiting Puerto Rico due to its health and safety standards, but more importantly, due to everything we can offer, from pristine beaches to a tropical rainforest and the second largest cave system in the hemisphere, to our mountain views and ecotourism opportunities, to our gastronomy, our high-end or casual hotel and rental properties, our history, our culture, and our people. That is why I'm working closely with our Economic Development Department and the Tourism Company to support our local small businesses who are the backbone of our tourism industry. Our restaurants, tour operators, experience managers, small lodges, travel agents, transport operators, entrepreneurs, artisans, entertainers, and cultural stakeholders are the ones who support this important sector of our economy, and they will always have the backing of my administration. They gave us the authentic and culturally rich tourism infrastructure that we have today and will grow tomorrow, with programs such as sustainable tourism, agritourism, and green tourism, which are being revamped to support the elevation of the product offering and adapt the different models to the changing needs and wants of our consumers. Let me conclude by adding that my commitment to the long-term viability and stability of our tourism industry is at the top of my administration's priorities. You will be hearing more about the programs our Economic Development Secretary Manolo Sidre and Tourism Director Carlos Mercado are developing to boost our product and enhance the Puerto Rico experience. Furthermore, Brad and Discover Puerto Rico will continue to enhance our modern and vibrant brand. This is an industry that will make us shine and show the world that the small island of Puerto Rico is big, strong, and resilient. We have had to bounce back before. Our story bears witness to how we rally after devastating hurricanes, earthquakes, and Zika outbreaks. Each time we came back stronger and better than before. You can count on my support, as well as my full dream team, to work collaboratively with all tourism stakeholders on our path to recovery and growth. We also count on you to help us be back on track and to responsibly welcome the world to our shores with open arms. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Governor Pierluisi, for joining us today and sharing your vision as it relates to the tourism industry of Puerto Rico. I want to pause for a moment to take some questions. The governor has graciously agreed to stay on for a few minutes and answer your questions. So please use the Q&A at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can in the time that we have available. So please go ahead and head to that Q&A box and put in your questions there for the governor. Let me see if we have any questions here. Governor, we are getting a question. What are the current plans for restrictions given the new caseload?
Well, I just announced an amendment to the executive order that we have in place imposing restrictions. The main change is that we're requiring that all businesses, including offices actually, do not exceed 30% of their capacity in terms of occupation. We don't want congestion anywhere, including restaurants, retail stores, again, offices, warehouses, shopping centers. So 30% is the capacity that we're allowing across the board. It was 50%, and it only applied in the past basically to the commercial sector. Now we're expanding it to the labor, to all the, as I said, all businesses pretty much. That's the main change. There are other changes. For example, we don't want activities calling for the attendance of a lot of people. Basically, they're forbidden. You can only get a waiver to perform them if you apply for it to my chief of staff, and we will be tough. At the airport, we're making a change. Now we will be requiring, as of next Monday on, we will be requiring all tourists to basically come with a negative COVID test result. And if they don't, they will have 48 hours to obtain it. We will advise them, tell them where to go to get it. But if they don't show a negative COVID test result within the 48 hours, they'll be fined. And we will be policing this quite a bit. So those are the main changes that I recall for the moment. The executive order is public, so you can obtain it. The Department of State already issued it, and it's available for review.
Thank you, Governor. We have another question. With the cruising activity reassuming in the U.S., do you foresee that reassuming in Puerto Rico? And is your administration working with the CDC to achieve that?
Yes, of course. We're looking forward to the day when the cruise industry will get reactivated across the world, including the U.S. And we're very much monitoring what the CDC is doing. We know the governor of Florida actually sued the CDC. I know that our resident commissioner has been requesting a better guidance from the CDC, and we'll do whatever we have to do once we get to this new normal that we are all looking forward to, so that we start receiving cruises once again in our port, and as many of them choosing San Juan as their home port, the better.
Thank you, Governor. We have time for one more question. What is your position in regards to high school seniors celebrating a modified senior prom at our hotels on the island?
We will review whatever applications we get. I'm talking about my chief of staff. One of the things we will be requiring for activities like the ones you are mentioning is actually COVID tests, negative COVID test results from all attendees, among other things. And we will be quite insistent that we don't want to reach anything, we don't want more than 30% of the space occupied in any such activity. So that's what I'll say for now. Again, we need to be careful. The spike is concerning. The spike we've seen in COVID cases in the last several weeks is still concerning. Actually, the curfew, I modified the curfew and expanded the curfew just a bit more than a week ago. So I anticipate that in and of itself will be reflected in the stats at some point in the coming days. And as I said yesterday, I even restricted the use of commercial spaces and office spaces even more, from 50% now to 30%. So that should be reflected in statistics about 2 weeks from now. to a bit more than 2 weeks from now. So my vision is that hopefully by the time that the executive order expires, which will be roughly, I think it is May 9, that then we will be in a much better position in terms of dealing with the pandemic.
Thank you so much, Governor. We thank you for taking the time to join us today. Now, to share more about consumer behavior, industry trends, and what we can expect in the weeks ahead, let's welcome Discover Puerto Rico's Research and Analytics Director, Alicia Valentine.
Thank you, Xiomara, and good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to hear how well versed the governor is on the statistics regarding tourism. So it's certainly been a wild month since we last gathered. The hints at increasing visitation we're just starting to see a month ago exploded and haven't let up. And from the numbers we track at Discover Puerto Rico, it doesn't look like it's going to let up anytime soon. I recently had the opportunity to talk with visitors and looking to understand why Puerto Rico had seen such an explosion in growth. And I was struck by a healthcare worker from the Midwest who said she'd heard from a fellow nurse that Puerto Rico was taking COVID precautions seriously. And upon arriving on the island, she was impressed by the masking, temperature taking, and sanitizing happening. So though those openings and closings early in the pandemic were confusing to visitors, there's been a consistent message on the requirements for visitation in recent months, and we're starting to see those results. Specifically, we started to see occupancy really pick up the week of February 7th, the first time Puerto Rico outpaced the rest of the US. But since that time, we've seen occupancy increase steadily, surpassing even pre-pandemic levels. That week ending April 3rd, hotel occupancy was 82.3%, nearly triple the occupancy at the start of the year, and the highest hotel occupancy we'd seen since the week ending March 7th of 2019, when occupancy was 84%. Again, that was a 2019 high, not 2020. And we know based off of hotel and rental data, as well as the airport arrivals, that 2019 was a record-setting year for visitation to Puerto Rico. To dig a little more deeply on our pre-pandemic visitor activity, I wanted to take a look at the makeup of those air passengers. In the past, we've looked a lot at how lodging demand had shifted in recent years, with consumers shifting into rentals. And from that lodging data, we know that 2019 demand had increased about 3.5% from the previous high in 2016. But in looking at the makeup of air passengers, we see that visitors actually increased 7.5% in 2019 from that previous high in 2016. So why did the number of visitors increase 7.5% over 2016, but the lodging demand was just 3.5% higher? Again, that consumer shift into the rental market, where bigger properties have seen the most growth. And those bigger properties are able to accommodate more visitors. Yes, there was more resident volume in 2019 in air activity, but there is no doubt that there was also a record number of visitors, both from the US mainland and from international markets. And we know those international travel piece will continue to lag given the restrictions. However, those international travel restrictions represent a real opportunity as well. Our data partners at Tourism Economics estimates that there will be more US travel spending, in the US than before COVID-19 because of limits on international travel that's going to restrict the export of tourism. Puerto Rico is likely beginning to see some of that. In fact, those conversations that I had with visitors in March, there was one family from France that now lives in Texas visiting Puerto Rico because they couldn't go home to visit family in France, that they chose to vacation in Puerto Rico. So we're starting to see how some of that limitation on international travel is going to impact us. And when we looked at this monthly comparison of hotel occupancy to the US average a month ago, we had just surpassed where other destinations had mostly seen occupancy hover throughout the pandemic. We know that our ride has been far more dramatic than other destinations in the US, given consumer wariness of air travel throughout the pandemic and those changing restrictions in Puerto Rico. But with the increasing vaccine distribution and our clear guidelines on requirements for traveling, we saw occupancy skyrocket in March. And it's not just local travel that's driving this dramatic increase. Because of the changes in restrictions over the course of the past year, it becomes clear when we look at the summer months that what the local market can support. In the midst of the loosening of local restrictions, but continued limitation on inbound travel, at the brand hotels that we track, occupancy hovered around 25%. And we know that the reporting from the Puerto Rico Tourism Company also shows that about 31% of visits in 2020 were from the local market, up from 29% the year before. So I mentioned in my first slide that it was that week of February 7th that we started to see occupancy climb. When we overlay the weekly arrivals into SJU, you can clearly see how the incoming passenger arrivals are directly correlated to that increased hotel occupancy. Certainly during December and January, airport arrivals were made up significantly of VFR travel, as there was not corresponding increase in occupancy. But since mid-February, it is clear that the increasing air arrivals are visitors staying in hotels, generating the strongest lodging demand since March of 2019. But especially encouraging is that not only has occupancy improved, but the average daily rate is improving dramatically. While we didn't see the same kinds of occupancy levels that the rest of the US did throughout 2020, our hotels that did welcome guests were able to hold rate better than average. In the recent surge of demand in the past month, the average daily rate has followed. In the most recent week, the average ADR was $260, which is even 16% higher than pre-pandemic. And the data shows that the marketing Discover Puerto Rico has been able to place with CARES Act dollars since the beginning of the year is influencing that ADR. Our data partners at Adara are able to track hotel bookings after consumers have been exposed to our paid media. And year to date, the average rate that visitors are paying after being exposed to advertising is $290, which is 31% higher than the average year to date. This is also significantly higher than the rate paid by visitors who had seen Discover Puerto Rico advertising in 2019 or even 2020. I wanted to provide a little context of where we are in terms of recovery compared to the competition. And unfortunately, I don't yet have that March data included, but hopefully I'll be receiving that today and be able to update our channels in doing so. But we were able to see how dramatically different the past have been than January and February, which is what's included here. Even this clearly illustrates where Puerto Rico typically falls against other Florida markets. And even in record-setting 2019, most Florida destinations saw higher hotel occupancy than us. And of course, Q2 2020 dip shows how much more dramatically the island was impacted than these other destinations. But we're beginning to climb back, and we're pretty middle of the road against these other destinations that don't have some of the same hurdles that we do. And similarly, when we look at other Caribbean competitive sets, we can see both where we fall historically with hotel occupancy against where we've been able to climb back faster than these other Caribbean destinations. And we expect this to continue. When we look at the limited competitive set, we are the only destination booking better than 2019. Again, that record-setting year for Puerto Rico. What you'll see here is actual bookings in hotel occupancy through the end of the fiscal year on the left and through the end of the calendar year on the right. And through both of these timeframes, we are booking ahead of that record-setting 2019 pace 2 years ago. So yes, COVID has been devastating for the industry worldwide, but Puerto Rico is already writing that incredible comeback story. With that, I'll turn it over to Chief Marketing Officer Leah Chandler.
Great, thanks, Alicia. Discover Puerto Rico, of course, in collaboration with our industry partners, posted significant results and a positive impact in 2020, implementing marketing and sales strategies that kept the destination top of mind, despite the pandemic halting global tourism. To view 2020 highlights of top-line results from the DMO, we want to share a quick video produced by our internal multimedia team. This video is available on our industry portal in English and Spanish. .
Viajar ha cambiado para siempre, pero una cosa nunca cambiará. Discover Puerto Rico, tu DMO, continúa guiando a la industria turística de Puerto Rico a través de cada desafío. El 2020 paralizó nuestra industria global. Pero nos adaptamos rápidamente y juntos posicionamos a Puerto Rico más fuerte que nunca. Fuimos pioneros en nuevas estrategias de mercadeo.
What we wanted to do was to engage people while you're shut in and bring nature to you.
1, 2, 3.
Bienvenidos to our virtual destination experience.
And dance have always played an important role in the lives of Puerto Ricans.
E impulsamos un mayor tráfico en nuestros canales sociales. Compartimos la belleza de nuestra isla creativamente.
The water conditions are glacial, it's clean, nice, smooth.
Mientras les exhortábamos a permanecer en sus casas y mantenerse seguros. Pronto será el momento de darles la bienvenida una vez más. Seguimos generando titulares y obteniendo reconocimientos. Inspiramos visitas futuras e impulsamos las reservas para cuando sea el momento adecuado. Realizamos eventos híbridos y también nos encontramos de manera
Pleasure to
presencial.
welcome you to this hybrid destination experience.
Experience the culture, and honestly, I can't wait to book a meeting there, and I can't wait to go back.
Forjamos nuevas alianzas y ayudamos a proteger nuestros tesoros más pequeños. Y sí, ganamos aún más premios en el camino. Nadie sabía lo que tenía reservado el 2020, pero nuestro DMO fue construido para enfrentar la adversidad, para ayudar a nuestra industria a recuperarse, reactivarse y crecer, escribiendo la mejor historia de recuperación de Puerto Rico. En el 2021, Discover Puerto Rico continuará guiando nuestra industria, llevando a Puerto Rico hacia adelante. Mientras sus viajeros de todo el mundo se preparan para explorar de nuevo, invitémoslos a descubrir Puerto Rico.
And of course, back here in 2021, we're continuing to use our COVID-19 action plan to guide activities related to marketing and communications. Today, we're operating in the rebound phase. While some restrictions are being re-implemented, we continue to see consumer confidence growing, and maintaining the balance between the visitor economy and health and safety remains paramount. We're encouraging would-be travelers to plan and book future trips to the island, building on consumers' pent-up demand for a vacation. We've revised our COVID-19 messaging based on yesterday's executive order, informing our website travel advisory, consumer Q&A, and MICE materials, and are disseminating information to US and international media to keep Puerto Rico top of mind. We updated messaging to reflect the opening of the airports in Ponce and Aguadilla as well. Throughout our earned media efforts, we continue to fold in the CDC regulation, which does not apply to travelers arriving from Puerto Rico. We hosted a webinar on March 30th to share a forward-looking, results-oriented, data-led approach to Puerto Rico's tourism recovery, which will act as our guidebook as we begin to move past the COVID-19 pandemic. We outlined detailed benchmarks that will guide our response and activities in marketing, sales, and communications. So check out our industry portal to review this full plan. It's available in English and in Spanish. On March 31st, we hosted a virtual panel for industry, media, and influencers outlining crisis and recovery strategies and establishing Discover Puerto Rico as a strong voice within the travel and tourism industry. Local political commentator and attorney Armando Valdez Prieto moderated an in-depth conversation with industry leaders Ann Madison with CLIA, Diane Plazas, CSMO Caribbean and Latin America at Marriott, Don Welsh, President and CEO of Destinations International, Manuel Lavoy, Executive Director at Core3, and Peco Suarez from our own Board of Directors at Discover Puerto Rico. We shared key learnings, including the importance of crisis preparedness, transparency, constant communication, and agility. We had approximately 114 attendees representing media outlets including The Points Guy, Travel Pulse, USA Today, and Meetings Alliance, as well as industry members from organizations such as the American Society of Travel Advisors, JetBlue, and the Caribbean Tourism Organization. We shared a press release that garnered more than 50 pickups, resulting in more than 68 million impressions in the Associated Press and Market Screener, among others, and secured coverage in Recommend and in Travel Pulse. We reminded US media and influencers that Puerto Rico is the ideal remote work destination by mailing them remote work survival kits that highlighted the island's value propositions in sort of a tongue-in-cheek manner, which included everything they would need to work remotely from the island. We sent kits to top outlets like Forbes, Travel and Leisure, Thrillist, and others. This really kicked off conversations about Puerto Rico's unique offerings as a remote work destination and has already resulted in feature articles in places like NerdWallet, Afar, and MSN Travel. And as working from home fatigue continues to set in, Puerto Rico, as we know, is perfectly set up for those who are contemplating a longer stay or want to work remotely. This is an opportunity for Puerto Rico to position itself as the ideal US destination for a workcation, as the island offers the appeal of a Caribbean destination married with the convenience of being part of the US. The Discover Puerto Rico campaign aims to create opportunities for visitors to come to Puerto Rico to work for an extended period of time, portraying us as a multifaceted leisure destination to remote work and extended stay while driving bookings to tourism partners. We will ask consumers to tell us what they could accomplish if they were to have 2 weeks working remotely from the island and award a trip to Puerto Rico to explore the island and work in full color for 2 weeks this summer. The prize consists of round-trip flights for 6 lucky winners and 14 nights in one of Puerto Rico's many unique lodging options, ranging from a tree house to a boathouse, a coffee hacienda, or any number of unique accommodations. And we're executing additional activations to continue to keep the destination top of mind. We're revisiting San Juan's 500th anniversary. We've been discussing the anniversary for the past year with multiple partners, and it's a top priority for the municipality of San Juan. But we also understand how important this is for the island as a whole. And lastly, you may remember we were in conversations with Disney to find synergies and possible partnership opportunities around West Side Story. The launch was pushed back last year due to COVID, but now is back as they plan to premiere the movie this December. It's a great pop culture moment and opportunity to partner with NYC & Co., the New York City DMO, for a strategic collaboration that delivers a unifying message through culture and dance. And we're excited to announce that our virtual vacation campaign from the spring and summer of 2020 has won 2 Adrian Awards from the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International. We won a Gold Award in Crisis Communications and Management and a Bronze Award in Recovery Strategies. Some awards are still pending, and we're hopeful that our work will continue to be recognized by the industry, bringing additional attention to the island and all of our strategic efforts. We continue to outline moments and events to leverage that we jump on. Topics such as remote work, Earth Day, and National Travel and Tourism Week, among others, are being pursued proactively to garner coverage that increases awareness and consideration. And lastly, our news engine never turns off. These are ongoing opportunities to insert Puerto Rico into conversation. So what you see here is just a small sample of some of the coverage that Ketchum has secured for the destination recently. We're also working with Aerostar currently to develop a consumer-facing campaign to address airport crowds, some of the recent poor behavior from some tourists, and a lack of proper arrival requirements when landing in Puerto Rico. Many people haven't traveled for a long time, and we feel strongly that a refresher course on courteous travel presented in a light and friendly way could certainly benefit our island. Low funnel messaging with gentle reminders will be utilized to address ongoing health and safety requirements, along with what we're calling code of conduct recommendations. As a reminder, the pie chart you see now is a demonstration of the funding sources for our current media programs through the end of the fiscal year. Our core funding is the smallest at only 4%, with the lion's share of our investment coming from CARES Act and CDBG, federal funds that we know are not sustainable. But we are continuing to keep you updated throughout the pandemic on the changes and optimizations we're making to our media plans, and we've also been making changes to our audience and targeting parameters. This month, we've added a new audience, travelers who normally seek international travel, but currently aren't able to take these trips. They're looking for alternatives. We started reaching this audience with native and OTT placements, and we'll review the performance in the coming months. We're also in the process of revisiting our COVID market selection formula, which looks at COVID cases, airline seats, and population data. We're now evolving that formula to include vaccination rates to better prioritize markets with responsible travelers. And today, CARES Act media is the bulk of what is currently running. So here is a quick snapshot we're sharing of what the CARES specific media mix looks like today. And of course, the requirement of the CARES funds is that the focus of messaging be health and safety. So here are just a couple of quick examples of some of the creative that's highlighting this right now. With our CARES campaign now in market for a few months, we have some initial results to share. We've had a heavy emphasis on awareness placements, and we've accumulated through that more than 20.5 million video views across programmatic, social, and YouTube. Since the campaign launch, we've seen 4 times the revenue in hotel bookings from our Adara impact reports. And since January 1st, arrivalist lift has risen to nearly 75%, meaning that those who are exposed to our advertising are 75% more likely to arrive on the island. OTT has garnered more than 15.4 million impressions during just the last month, with a completion rate of 96.35%, which is way above the benchmark. Our Spot TV flight ran the week of March 22nd and continued for 2 weeks with nearly 100 million impressions. Some of the top performing programming included the NCAA March Madness, Jeopardy, Saturday Night Live, The Masked Singer, and Chicago PD. The next flight starts on April 19th and will run for about 3 weeks with markets including NYC, Philadelphia, Boston, Baltimore, DC, and Chicago. And as we shared with you last month, we've made great progress forward with our CDBG plans and have begun a rolling launch. Some digital assets were launched as of March 30th, and we expect more to be rolling out in the coming weeks, along with our first print ad placements. And here's just a quick look at what that CDBG specific media mix is today. And this campaign is scheduled to run through the end of the current fiscal year. We continue to see strong performance on the website from March, including increases in sessions and page views. We're seeing bounce rates continue to go down and time on site go up, which means we're reaching the right audiences with our advertising. And organic continues to buck industry trends and grow, which is a credit to our robust content strategy that's in place today on the site. During March, we added 4 new pieces of content to the site, including a landing page for International Women's Day, best brunch spots, and a guide to planning the perfect road trip. We also continue to optimize our existing content on the site on an ongoing basis. And in order to keep you informed of all things happening in the digital landscape, we put together a new monthly report to update you on the latest results from social, our website, and from paid media. Both results from January and February can be viewed on the industry portal, so be sure to check that out. And we continue to be very pleased with our CARES Act investments in Cvent. In March, this advertising helped us generate 84 RFPs, which represented approximately 35,000 room night potential. And not surprising, a 133% increase over last March. We've launched new campaigns for CARES Act for Q2 for MICE, including campaigns with LinkedIn, eProDirect, and Meetings Today. And as part of our partnership with MPI, we were able to secure a live feed into MPI's broadcast to thousands on April 8th, in addition to our logo and videos being promoted throughout the day. This important sponsorship put Puerto Rico directly in front of important buyers as we celebrated the return to live meetings. We also invited a meeting planner influencer to work remotely from the island recently. Mike Ferreira, owner of Meetings Made Easy, spent 12 days working and touring. He posted daily on his personal and company channels as he toured 10 hotels across the island, including San Juan and the East and Southwest coasts, the Convention Center, Distrito T-Mobile, and other attractions and restaurants. We've already received RFPs from planners engaging with Mike and getting his perspective on our destination. In addition, we've seen a 44% fan increase on Instagram meetings channels and on LinkedIn. Impressions have increased by 18%, interactions have increased by 130%, and reactions have increased by 7%. So we're just starting to see the results from this project and look forward to sharing more results soon. And with that, I will turn the presentation over to our Chief Sales Officer, Ed Carey.
Great, thanks so much, Leah, and good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. As you've heard from Alicia and Leah, the demand trends for Puerto Rico have been steadily increasing, and we're really optimistic that this will continue as the vaccine rollout progresses. You know, more and more meeting planners and travel advisors are requesting new dates, and we're hopeful that corporations across the US will begin to roll back their travel restrictions. So our group lead volume really began to improve dramatically around the second week of January versus last year. So in future updates, we're going to begin to share our progress versus 2019 and previous years to ensure that we're providing a fair comparison. But from January 2021 to April 10, we've generated a total of 199,000 plus group room leads and confirmed a little over 10,264 definite rooms for roughly 8.8 million in economic impact. So planners are booking. And in fact, the lead volume has nearly doubled each month since the beginning of the year. So leads generated in March were 237% higher than those generated in January. And we expect to see that to continue. On a national level, this volume is outpacing virtually all of the most popular group and incentive destinations. According to CVEN, which is the industry's most important lead sourcing platform for meeting planners, Puerto Rico saw a 219% increase in its share of total demand versus the last 6 months. The only destination with a larger increase was Hawaii. So if you haven't already re-engaged your sales teams, now is certainly the time. The sales pipeline has also improved substantially, and we're approaching 2019 levels. In this chart on the left, you see the pipeline that Discover Puerto Rico inherited in July of 2018 versus the high point in July of 19, the decrease in 2020, and the recovery we're currently seeing in the active lead room nights. So as a result, we have actively switched our engagement priorities back to live and in-person site inspections and fam trips. And we're going to continue with a mix of hybrid and live activations as long as necessary to stay ahead of our competition. So in the first quarter, we've already hosted 2 fam trips, 7 site inspections, and have already scheduled an additional 4 FAMs and 7 site inspections between now and the end of June. And that number continues to grow. We also realize, of course, that we have to stay nimble as the business conditions improve. You know, as the recovery of our various segments progresses, we're carefully calibrating our actions to reflect what is currently happening in the marketplace. We've been monitoring the GDS and partner production reports to understand which consortia are most active and require our attention and collaboration. And meeting planners and events are being targeted based on the most active markets. And we're actively going after competitive destinations through MICE marketing and direct sales initiatives. As advisors and planners become more active with new RFPs, we will watch for trends and booking patterns. Leads will be prioritized by those that are within those booking windows and prepared to move forward with site inspections and negotiations. And then as occupancy further improves, we can start to focus more on pattern management and rate growth. And of course, we're going to be ready to initiate in-market roadshows and increase our presence at the most important trade shows. It's also important for us to stay really close to the progress that each of our national sales directors are making in their respective regions. Each director is responsible to watch for trends, formulate a strategy, and report back to us and our sales and revenue committee on a regular basis. And then as you can see from the calendar here, we're still extremely engaged virtually through April and right into May. But towards the end of May, most of the events begin to open to live locations. And we are laser focused on the most important annual shows, along with those that hit our key partnerships and active market segments. And as we've reported each month, we're focused on activity with those companies that provide the widest possible coverage of the entire destination, whether it's metro or non-metro areas. So the intent is to cover every possible option with e-blast, trade shows, editorials in e-publications, webinars, social media, and certainly sales calls as soon as we possibly can. Last month, we shared 2 examples of important first-time initiatives for Puerto Rico involving the creation of homepage strategies for both Vax Vacation Access and AAA. So I wanted to give you some updates on where we are with those. In January, we created the homepage for Vax Access, which is a travel marketplace used by over 100,000 travel advisors. The engagement figures were strong to begin with, but the traffic from January to February increased by over 300% in both impressions and page views, and 73% in searches. And even though the numbers are still relatively small, AAA has also increased exponentially month over month, as you can see in the lower right-hand side of this graphic. Revenues generated from the homepage increased from 10,000 in January to 77,000 in March. And obviously, as more and more hotels apply and are accepted into the program, we should see better and better results. And then lastly, we're going to maintain a very busy schedule of educational webinars as part of our co-op agreements and strategic partnerships. In May, we will be hosting highlighting a fam trip with Travel Savers, which is the single largest consortia booking Puerto Rico. And we're actively planning several additional live visits through the end of June. So very optimistic on the sales front. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Xiomara.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you to our executive leadership team and Governor Pierluisi for joining us today and sharing all this great information and insight. I know that several of you submitted questions for Governor Pierluisi, but we didn't have enough time to get to all of them. So please know that we will share the questions with his team and get responses. Once we have those, we will share them with you via email. We have some questions on the Q&A box, and in the time we have left, we want to answer as many questions as we can. Before we get started, I want to let you know that we will not be able to offer the translation feature during the Q&A session, so this portion will be in English only. Also, as I mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded, so later this week, you will receive a link to a recording. You may replay it at your convenience or share it with a colleague who was not able to tune in today. In addition, my email is also on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to me if after the webinar you have questions or need any additional information. I will be happy to assist you. Lastly, I want to remind you that at the end of today's webinar, a survey will appear on your screen. We want to continue providing you with information on the topics that are most relevant to you. So please feel free to fill out the survey. We want to hear from you. A nuestros amigos que están utilizando nuestro servicio de traducción, no vamos a poder ofrecer la función de subtítulos en esta sección, así que la misma será solo en inglés. También, como mencioné antes, este seminario web está siendo grabado y más tarde le estaremos haciendo llegar el enlace con la grabación para que puedan repasar el contenido a su conveniencia o compartirlo con algún colega que no haya podido estar presente el día de hoy. En pantalla están viendo mi correo electrónico. Pueden anotarlo y si al finalizar este seminario web tienen dudas, preguntas o necesitan alguna información adicional, pueden comunicarse conmigo a través del mismo. Por último, les recuerdo que al finalizar tendremos una encuesta en su pantalla. La misma nos ayudará a continuar ofreciendo información relevante sobre temas de interés a nuestra industria. Por favor, participen de la encuesta. Queremos escuchar sus opiniones. So let's go over to some of the questions that we have on the chat box. Alicia, I think you can help me answer this question. There is a new trend called family pots, and this it relates to families that are extra careful about COVID, but still want to travel and are trying to place themselves or find themselves in secluded areas. Can you share a little bit more about that trend?
Certainly. So throughout the pandemic worldwide, rentals have fared considerably better than hotels. In Puerto Rico for 2020, hotel demand was down about 50%, but rental demand only 5%. The U.S. Travel Association works with the same partner that Discover Puerto Rico does, Tourism Economics, in tracking recovery efforts. And since the beginning of the year, there's been a lot of equity for hotels in terms of consumers now feeling that they're comfortable with the sanitation process that's happening in hotels, and that while consumers have still made those decisions to move into rentals, that the hotel market is coming back much more strongly, and that the year-over-year changes are pretty similar between rentals and hotels at this point.
Thank you, Alicia. I see a question that we have here about how far in advance does that negative PCR test has to be obtained before entering San Juan? That would be 72 hours prior to arrival. So you can get that done 72 hours prior to arriving. And once you come in, you fill out the travel declaration form and upload your test. If they are not ready yet, they will provide you with the link for you to upload them once you receive them. But the time frame is 72 hours. Now, Brad, I have another question that probably you can help us answer. Do you have any plans on working with local businesses to boost the tourism industry, in particular with mayors of the different municipalities?
Absolutely. In fact, we've had an active partnership that's really kind of sped up over the past several weeks. And I think one of the things that's maybe been a surprise for a lot of people in Puerto Rico is when we built the award-winning website that we have today and our marketing program, it was designed not only to promote the brand of Puerto Rico, but to be able to showcase and highlight the unique offering in each of the 78 communities. And I think it's taken maybe some communities a little longer than others to learn to take advantage of that. Very, very pleased to see the work being led right now by Janine Ortiz, who is in our marketing division, supported by Ana Maria Caratini and Xiomara Rodriguez, in terms of working directly with tourism directors at the municipal level, as well as mayors, to showcase how we can partner together. And I have to give a shout out to our friends at AFAF and the Fiscal Oversight Board, who've also helped us in terms of not only making those connections, but helped us in terms of developing our municipal guide. So we actually have a ready-made guide, which you can find on our industry portal, that directs each and every municipality specifically what they can do to take advantage of Discover Puerto Rico. But we know as much as we made some progress in recent months, we still have a long, long way to go. So we're hopeful that throughout 2021, we'll be able to continue to develop and evolve these partnerships. At the end of the day, the real brand distinction for Puerto Rico becomes not simply because we have beautiful beaches and great natural assets like El Yunque and the Bio Bay. It's the rich, vibrant culture, the art, the history, the music, the dance, which we have an abundance of in 78 different communities. So our active promotion, sales, and publicity efforts will continue to highlight that. But we know that when you build a team, 1 + 1 can equal 3. And so our goal is to work with each municipality, and specifically the mayors and tourism directors and the businesses in their community, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to highlight what makes each community distinctive and unique. And when we do that, everybody wins, because it gives visitors more reasons to visit, but also when they come to Puerto Rico, gives them reasons to stay longer and spend more. So we look forward to continuing to elevate and enhance those partnerships.
Thank you so much, Brad. Leah, I think this question, it's for you. Go to Ciales.com and the municipality of Ciales. They are producing a map that will outline all of their tourism offerings and attractions. And they're wondering what are the tools available for them to promote this map and attract more tourism to their municipality.
So I would just encourage them to reach out, Sia, with your email on the screen, though, they could connect to the DMO directly, and we can talk amongst our digital team about ways we might be able to incorporate that into some of the content that's on our website. So in areas where we're talking specifically about that municipality or about that region, we can build in mentions or links to drive more visitation and visibility to that asset.
Thank you, Leah. We have one more question here, and it's about certifying tourism guides. That is something that the Puerto Rico Tourism Company does. But if you're having trouble finding the right contact, please go ahead and use my email on the screen, and I'll be happy to connect you with the proper person at PRTC so you can go ahead and handle the certification as a tour guide. Now, this is all the time that we have, but thank you all for joining us today. If you have not registered to our industry portal or to receive our weekly newsletter and weekly research dashboard, please head over to discoverpuertorico.com/industry to do so. If you need assistance with the sign-up process, please reach out to us and our digital team will assist you. Also, be on the lookout for the save the date for our May industry update. The invite and registration link will be hitting your inbox soon. Once again, thank you and see you on the next one.